here are my top tips for travelling safely, especially when you're travelling on your own. My name is Zoe. I like to solo travel, and I'm in the process of setting up in the UK to go travelling full time. But that's another drama for another day, or if you want to watch some of my other videos. But when I'm travelling on my own, there are some safety tips that I use that you may find helpful. So the first one is I try and make myself aware of local scams. Now, we all know when we travel, there's different scams in different regions. And I try and find out what those scams are. And one of the best ways to do that is actually try and get onto some Facebook groups or watch some YouTube videos of people that have been to these places recently. Now, scams change all the time, so you just need to be aware. I'm not saying being scared. Don't be scared to go to a country. Just be aware of them. So let me pick a country I went to where there was quite a few of them. Egypt. And I was very lucky because I had a tour guide there that pointed out a lot of them to me, so I could watch out for them. One of them is, and I found this a lot in a lot of countries, is when you're walking around markets, people will put things in your hand because they're wanting you to buy it. And, you know, if you're like me and you're British, we don't like to be rude and, you know, like push things away. And that is a problem for us, is we're polite in general. But he always said, don't ever hold it. He said, let it fall on the ground. And I find that really difficult to do, but I've learned to do that now. So if somebody hands me something, hoping that I will take it, and then they'll say, right, now you have to buy it, I just don't take it. I just let it fall on the ground. I do the same now if someone tries to push something into my hands in a marketplace, in a shop, on the side. And that's the thing, is just don't hold it. It does feel rude to do, but it's going to save you a lot of aggravation when you've got a vendor up in your face being loud in a foreign voice to you. It can be very intimidating, so just don't put yourself in that position. Another one, and I have fallen prey to this, is when you're at an attraction and someone, they just grab your phone and start taking pictures for you with the monument or the site that you want to see, and then they try and charge you. And you know, they're not just charging you a couple of pounds, they're trying to get a lot of money out of you. And it's very difficult when they've got hold of your phone. You feel that you have to give them something to get your phone back. They're very fast. They're very fast at taking your phone. So I nowadays always have my phone around my neck, attached to me. So it's not so easy for somebody to just take it from me to start going, no, let me take your picture, let me take your picture. It happens so fast that sometimes you don't have time to think. So I always attach my phone to me, either around my neck, or you can get like bungee things and just attach them. It's so much harder for them to do it. And just be firm and say no. Now remember, they're going to be coming at you. They're trying to make a living. So, you know, I don't want to be rude to them, but just be firm, say no. There's lots of other scams as well, and I've encountered these through several countries. One of them is when someone comes up to you and says, oh, I've got these coins, I can't change them, you know, they're UK coins, can you change them or something? And what they do is when they hand you their side is they hold on to some of them, so you basically lose out. And you think you're doing them a favour, but it's a scam. So I should just walk away. Just say, I have no cash, sorry. I only use cards, sorry. Just walk on. There are so many more. There can be some serious ones. And we'll come on to that when we go on to one of my other points. But never give your personal details to anybody. Never. Just never do it. You shouldn't be doing that online. You shouldn't be doing that when you're talking to people in another country. You shouldn't be doing that when you're talking to people in your own country. So just be mindful. But the best thing to do is make sure you're aware of what those local scams are at the moment. Taxis are another one. Nowadays, use Uber, use Grab. It's so much safer. That's my tip for that one. But just make sure you're aware of what those scams are and don't be afraid to be rude. My second one is to kind of bring your own security with you. Now, if there is a safe in your hotel or where you're staying, use it. Put your passport in there. Don't carry your passport around with you unless you need to. Just have a photocopy. Um, I I know people tell you should have your passport in certain countries, but I've always left it in the hotel and just taken a photocopy. And I got caught out in Mexico once because I don't take my passport, I keep it locked away. And we went to Cozumel on the ferry, and when we came back, of course we were coming into Mexico and we didn't have our passports. But we were able to find a copy on our phone, and that was fine. So just make sure you have a photocopy or you have a copy on your phone. Don't take your passport out with you. Now, for other valuables or where there isn't a safe, so if you're on an Airbnb, they don't always have a safe or somewhere to put them. But you can buy these, they're called like pack lock bags. I'll put some links to them below. And they add a little bit of security. You can tie it up to something. Now, it's not ideal, but it does give you a little bit more security. And just be mindful, you don't want to be traveling on your own and lose your passport or lose all your credit cards or everything. So, if you don't have these options, move your credit cards around, hide them in different places. Don't take them all out with you at once. Don't travel with just one card, because if it doesn't work, or it gets lost or it gets damaged, you really are going to be stuck. I mean, I take quite a few with me. I have different accounts with different banks, and I just make sure I have a bit of money in each one, so I know that I'm not going to get stuck in a country. Also make sure I have my apps loaded up so that I have the right cards on Uber and Grab. And also I always make sure I have data on my phone, or I have a local SIM card so I can make calls if I need to. So just look after your belongings and make sure that you have enough cards with you so that if anything happens, you don't get stuck. And if there is a safe, use it. If there isn't, maybe try one of these pack locks, or just hide things in different places. Not meaning to scare you. I've actually never been robbed on holiday, but touch wood, you never know, do you? You just never know. My third tip is, and I think it's an obvious one, but is do not travel without travel insurance. Now, I say I think it was obvious, but I have a little story here to illustrate the point. My son got married in the Dominican Republic, so a lot of us were travelling out there to go and be part of the wedding. And I said to some of them, I said, have you sorted your travel insurance out? And this is the younger one. Oh, no, we don't need it. We'll be fine. And I said, you're only young. It's not going to cost you very much. You need to get your travel insurance. Anyway, I pushed them to do it. When we were in the Dominican Republic, the lads went out on a stag do, and they had like a party bus, and it went to several bars and this. And while they were on the bus dancing, one of them fell against the door. It opened and they fell into the road. They were in hospital for a week. Luckily, they were not seriously injured. But that would have cost them a heck of a lot of money if they hadn't have had the travel insurance. So you never know what's going to happen. You might think you're young and healthy, but you don't know. Don't go anywhere without travel insurance. It's going to cost you. At some point, you're going to get caught out. And that story also leads me on to my fourth one. When you're booking tours, not all countries have the same safety and laws that we have in the UK or the US. And this was a good example of when something went very wrong and there was no recourse, because there was nothing we could do against the company for any redress against any of the losses that we suffered or that the person suffered in our group. And I'm always very mindful when I'm booking a tour. I look through all the reviews, go through TripAdvisor, go through Get My Guide, go through all of them, go through Facebook. I mean, I've taken some terrible tours and I'm not afraid to put a review about what's wrong with it for other people. Likewise, I'll say when it's good and when I felt safe. I think that's why it's important, not just to give comments when they're negative, but to give positive comments on these tours, because that helps everybody else out. But I'm always very mindful that other countries do not have the same safety requirements as you may expect in the UK. So just be extra careful who you're going with, and that you probably have no redress if things go wrong. Now, I don't want to scare you so that you don't go and do anything. I did a couple of tours on my own in Dominican Republic, and I had a marvelous time, and I absolutely raved the company I went with. They were very, very efficient. I felt very safe. They were very well looked after, and I just think they were unfortunate with the company they went with. But they didn't really check the reviews. So just make sure you check everything. Don't want to scare you. Just be mindful. And write reviews. Let us know when you find a good one. Now, following on from a couple of my points is my next one is do research from others, safety tips for the area that you're going to. Now, don't be scared to go to places, but do make sure that you know everything you could possibly know about how safe an area is that you're going to. Now, I went to South America last year. So I have been to parts of South America, but I did like a tour. And I did a lot of research because it was an organised tour, but there were certain places where I was going to explore my own. So like Santiago in Chile, which was amazing, by the way. But I did a lot of research into it. So I knew like to be careful of my belongings. So I made sure I had my belongings strapped to me. Even when I was queuing for things, like people were saying, make sure everything's zipped up. And just made sure, I knew what areas not to go to, so that I was safe when I was there. And I stuck to the tourist areas mainly. I mean, I got a bit lost in places, but actually I didn't feel unsafe in Santiago. But I did take the precautions. When I got to Peru, I was a little, you get to Cusco and it's much more relaxed, feels much safer, and you let your guard down a little bit. And that's what you need to be careful of, is not letting your guard down and checking everything. When we went, and I was in the group tour, thank goodness there was a group of us. We didn't have a leader at the time, and we'd just done the Amazon, like for a few days and on a camp there. And then we'd come back into this small town in Peru. We got involved in a shootout. And we just was not expecting that in this small town because we hadn't researched it really. I researched all the big towns, La Paz, Santiago, but I hadn't really thought about researching what happens in the smaller towns. And that was a lesson to me, is don't let your guard down. Just because it's not a big city doesn't mean there isn't some issues you need to look out for. Now, not going to lie, wasn't actually scared in this shootout because it was very obviously targeted. But it is a concern to see. Not something I really want to see again. So these things can happen. Nobody was harmed from my group. But again, just always have your guard up. Make sure you're researching every area you go to if you don't know it. Don't just assume that it's going to be fine. If you don't know it, you don't speak the language you don't know. And they're so easy because you've got so many Facebook groups now for areas. You've got so many YouTube videos. Just check. Just do some more research. That was my bad. And my final tip, and one I use a lot, which I'm sorry to say, is I tell lies. Now, I don't tell lies in a bad way, but I tell lies for my own safety. There's no need for that person that's just wandered up to me on the beach to know where I come from, what my job is, how much I earn, where I'm staying, or anything like that. I don't want to be sharing my personal details with people because you just don't know. They may well be just curious and being friendly. But if I don't know you, I don't want to tell you this stuff. So I'm going to lie. And I'm going to say I'm living the other side of town. Or I'm staying the other side of town. And the big one that I have to lie about a lot, and I had to lie about a lot when I was in my 30s, 40s, especially when I had blonde hair, is, and my sons used to tell me this, don't tell them you're single because it's so annoying. They just won't leave you alone. So I always say, oh, my husband's in the hotel, or my husband's meeting me in a minute, or my partner's this, And I don't really feel that that's a bad thing for me to do. I mean, I don't generally like lying, but if I think it's going to, save me getting into uncomfortable situations, I will do it. I will say I have no cash if, I don't want to be buying something, or you just want a quiet life when you're traveling. I don't want to attract any more attention than I need to. So don't be afraid to tell little white lies to people. It's fine. Yeah, just do it. Just don't tell people. Why would you tell people what you do for a living and how much you earn? I mean, I wouldn't do that in the UK. I'd say mind your own business. So, I've dated in the UK, and after the date, they've asked, oh, what way do you go home? And I said, oh, what way are you going? And then I always say I'm going the opposite way, unless I like them. But usually I go the opposite way. So it's a similar sort of thing. Just protect yourself. Yeah. Anyway, these are the sort of things I do to try and keep myself safe when I'm traveling, especially when I'm traveling on my own. Now, as you can see from my examples, I haven't always got it right. I have fallen for a couple of scams. Have not been ultra careful in an area and walked into a shootout that I shouldn't have done. I was in a group where they had that big accident. That wasn't actually my fault because I wasn't in that boy bit, but thank God I told them to get travel insurance. So if you enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, I'm always happy to help. And happy travels to you all. Thanks for watching. Ciao.